So the final presentation in this one is going to be a bit different. It's in the agriculture and the husbandry field, and Marty Darrow is going to talk to us about this. This, I would say, is one of those projects that is much more linear to completion type. So it's an example of something that is very much applied and is very much ready for application.
It seems to me the first two speakers today talked about genomic identification for treatments. The second two speakers about genetic identification for selection. We want to build bigger trees, we want to build better cows, better, more efficient cows. How many people have ever touched a dairy cow in the crowd? Enough people, good. Okay, they look like, okay, so what we're going to do is Ronaldo here? No, Ronaldo couldn't make it. Anyway, Ronaldo and I have partnered on this thing in Genome, British Columbia, put the last pin into a project that's been going on for a little bit. This project has been supported by a number of people. I have to identify Investment Agriculture Foundation of British Columbia and the Western Endowment Fund. They're involved in genetic selection. CMEX Canada, which is one of the largest genetic producers of animal agriculture in the world. For those people who don't know it, the animal agriculture genetic component is worth $1.5 billion per year in the world. $1.5 billion. So advancement of the genetics is a very important tool to use. I also want to acknowledge a colleague at Greenbelt Veterinary Services who are actually helping compile all the information, the dairy farmers who are actually paying for the testing, and the Shoe Shop Veterinary Clinic and an outline clinic who is actually the key to making this part of the project work. The idea of this project is the widespread use of genomics on individual farms within the dairy industry. That means I'm bringing genomics to the farmer and asking them to apply it. So I'm taking what you guys are trying to develop now, and I'm telling them, here's how you apply it. So I'm taking the laboratory and putting it in the farmer's hand and saying, use it. Here's how you use it. If you don't, you're going to lose money. It's a tough thing to do because we are working on a fairly regular routine sort of people who are pretty similar. Oh, and those people who have never been visited Greenbelt Veterinary Services, just step out our back door and look left. This is what you see. It's got a nice little vista. That's actually in Hawaii. And for those people who don't know about the dairy industry, this is how we do our measures. So, is there a light here? Pointer? Okay. I need a PhD to know how to do the pointer. We measure, the standard measure in dairy production is made on a 305-day lactation. We measure the kilograms of milk produced, the kilograms of fat and protein. Fat and protein make your cheeses, make your ice creams, make your yogurts, right? If the milk is too thin, it doesn't do very well for processing. And the majority of our milk goes to processing. So that's something to understand because we're going to be talking about those figures a little later on. DHI, CanWest DHI, one of our sponsors, does the testing on the farm. They come to the farm to do testing. Each cow, about 10 times a year, and they take measurements of the milk, fat, and protein back. They provide it to a group called Canadian Dairy Network, who then publish the results on the internet, so everybody has access to all the data. It's kind of cool because everybody, nothing's hidden, everything's up front. CDN, by the way, is one of my partners on the project as well. Parental average, PA is parental average. It's the average between the genetic component of the dam and the sire. You add them together, divide by 2. That's what parental average is. Very, very non-reliable. EBV is estimated breeding value. Estimated breeding value is what happens when you have records on your own cow's lactation. So all of a sudden you have a component of her own production impinging on her genetic estimate. Then we add genomics to that, genomic parental average, which is, and genomic EBVs. That means the genomics have been tested and they're added into all of those categories to make an index for the cow. The indexes are called lifetime production index, which is kind of a composite measure agreed to by a group of people, farmers mainly. This is what we want the ideal cow in Canada to look like, because the ideal cow in Canada is not the ideal cow in the United States, or the Netherlands, or France, and so each group has decided what the ideal cow is. So LPI is an index to measure all of the traits of the cow, not just milk production. But my concentration is milk production because I can test it. This is what we're looking for. Aren't those girls pretty? Have you ever been to a beach that looks better than that? I tell you what, It's quite an amazing thing when you get a group of beautiful dairy cows, and this is what they want, nice structured dairy cows that will last a long time and produce lots of milk. So genomics is a way to know which heifer would be a good milker and which heifer would be a poor milker when she's 4 days old. That calf is for real? You gotta be kidding me. That's a Jersey for those people who don't know it. For foundation of genetic progress, this is the tree guy, and we're trying to do increase the reliability and we increase selection intensity. What we're going to do is just talk about reliability today. An unregistered heifer calf has a reliability for milk production of 0. Nothing. If we have a registered heifer calf, because of parental average, we have about a 34% accuracy for predicting her genetics. A lactating cow, her first lactation will give us 58% reliability. So if she has a parental average and her first milk lactation, we have some estimates of what she'll produce in her lifetime. So we can give her 58. But if we genomically test a calf at 4 days old, we have a reliability of 68%. All of a sudden, we are taking it very much faster. Genomics project answers 3 questions. Can we accurately link the animals? How precise is it? And is a financial benefit. The project is developing by collecting 2,000 heifer samples. We actually have 5,000 now in this project. We have collected the DHI records of the milk and compared the predicted with actual. How good is it? So the farmer says, I have my parental average, so why do I use genomics? You know, I've got an estimate. And if we look at a scatter plot between the parental average, which we see here, down here, versus genomics there, we see a pretty good matchup in a scatter plot of it. But the problem is how do you tell which one's which? And this is where we look at the low end of the parental average here, right there. That animal is identical in parental average, but one is a very inferior cow and one's a very superior cow. And if we look at the trait leaders at the top of the genomic chart, we have the same issue. This one actually has a higher parental average than that one. So how do you choose which is your next genetic leader? Again, this is identifying the animals as young stock and being able to improve the genomics. Looking at a different way, if we sort it by parental average initially, look what happens to ranking when we sort by genomics. 1 and 20 are no longer part of the top 20. The lower ends are no longer part of the lower ends. They're all different. There's a natural little scale there that scatter on a regular net increase or the net decrease in genetic value based on genomics to the parental average to genomics isn't there. 50% of them change dramatically. So genomics has come down to the fact that it means a better accuracy of information. And the farmer says, then, genomics will always predict my milk production, and another genotype does not equal phenotype. So what we've done is, this is part of the project, is we've taken genomic samples of the animals, and we now have 410 completed 305-day records. This is stuff that just came in about last October, November, been analyzed. CDN provided all of the recorded milk records and everything else, and this is what we have across 15 farms. We have a scatter plot that looks like this. This is our predicted milk, this is the actual milk, and we have a pretty good line of fit. With our R-squared, we have 0.2324. It's not a bad fit, but it's a scatter. Remember, we have 15 farms and 15 management systems with 15 different feeding programs, that sort of thing. So what we do is, of course, is take the statistics. And the scientific, and looking at that same data set with statistics, taking into account the dairy farms, we have a p-value of 0.0001, pretty significant. And what we found is that our average is about 9,000 kilograms of milk produced. Every incremental increase in genomic points, up or down, will increase or decrease the milk production of that cow for that 305-day lactation of 1.37 kilograms. Put a different way, if our genomics say the GPA say is 500, should produce about 9,600 kilograms of milk. And if her GPA is 1,500, she'll produce 11,000 kilograms of milk. If you figure, we'll talk about the economics another time, because we don't have time today. We did the same thing for fat and protein. We also have very significant models there. Our averages are there for the kilograms of fat and protein to produce. The incremental increase or decrease based on the genomics is there. And it's a linear model. It fits very nicely, and I'm only 1/10 done with my data. 410 farms, and to look at a different way, the average production that we got on the top 10% was 10,000 kilograms of milk. On the bottom 10% was 8,000. That's a 2,300 kilogram difference of the same animal on the same farm producing milk. Lots of money involved in that one. So genomics is a way to know which heifer is a good milker and which heifer will be a poor milker when she's 4 days old. Wow! 4 days old. So just to look at what we can do on the individual farms, we have one farm who has quite a few animals that have finished their 305-day lactation. Look at the R squared here, 0.54 in comparing her genomics versus her 305-day lactation. When we looked at the production on those animals, the difference between the top 10% and the bottom 10% is 4,000 kilograms of milk. This farm can make a lot of changes on it. And so we also went and looked at the records of how many animals get removed from it. We get to call, that's the nice thing about genetic selection, we get to remove the bad ones. And unfortunately, the human population can't quite do that. So we get to deselect the bad ones and select the best ones, so hopefully we'll do that. But in the ones that were deselected from the herd, the average milk production on those animals was 11,000 or 12,000 milk. So what does the farmer do? He retains 2 of those animals, they produce about 24,000 kilograms of milk. He does not milk 3 of the lowest ones predicted by genomics and saves that same, it comes up to wash. He actually saves himself $2,000, $2,200 in not feeding 1 extra cow. And he has to raise 3 heifer calves for $1,500 each. So one little move, that farm has just retained $6,700 of profit in his farm with one move. Now, if we can demonstrate this on these farms, every farm out there can do the same thing, use genomics to basically select the animals and make it go, oh wow. It's a weird reality because we're telling farmers to get rid of your babies. It's a tough thing to do for farmers because they're entrenched in their ways. So I feel like Moses standing up top with the 10 Commandments, and we're going, ha ha ha, you gotta be kidding. But one by one, we're turning converts, and that's part of the job. And I want to thank Genome and British Columbia for actually making this whole process happen.